Okay, we're good to go. I have the utmost respect for the marketing leaders, not because I spent almost 10 years in the marketing space, but because marketing is a function that has always been extremely receptive to new innovations. And because of that, when startups launch their AR, VR, or data analytics, or AI ML, or Gen AI powered solutions, they feel extremely compelled to create that very first use case for marketing leaders. Hi, this is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Partners. We are a deep tech revenue scaler and fund based out of Singapore with approximately 120 portfolio startups. Kuikads is one of the portfolio startups that we onboarded in January AI revenue scaler cohort program. And since their onboarding into the program, we have seen tremendous success for them through different conversations, especially with marketing leaders. And again, since marketing is evolving at such a rapid pace through different kind of innovations, through different kind of technologies, Kuikads and EthAum wanted to learn from the leaders themselves. We are thrilled to host a panel to discuss innovations transforming the marketing communication space and learn from insights shared by seasoned leaders. We have a fantastic, diverse, amazing panel today, and I would request my panelists to introduce themselves. If I may request Azita to introduce herself, please.
Hello, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Azita Ismaili, I am Chief Digital Officer at Atos with responsibility for innovation for the company. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Azita. And I know that you got pretty interesting background in consulting and marketing. So we are going to be extremely blessed with your insights today. Anis, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Anis Merchant. I lead global IP and innovation at C5I. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Anis. And I do understand that you are one of the thought leaders in the go-to-market space. So I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of interesting insights from your side as well. Thanks a lot, Anis, for joining us today. Ellie, could you please go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie Ahmadi. I'm currently an interim fractional marketing CMO at a Human Made Machine, but I have a lot of experience across different types of organizations, sizes, verticals. So I come from a very well-rounded opportunities and experiences in marketing that I hope that I can share today.
Thanks a lot, Ellie. Appreciate your presence today. You're dialing in from New York City, right?
I'm the Big Apple.
Interesting. And I do understand that you have been at various CMO leadership positions in different organizations. So again, fantastic conversation I'm expecting today. Thanks a lot, Ellie. Renu, could you please go next? You're on mute.
Hi, my name is Renu Rajesh, and I have around 25 years of experience around different technologies, including telecommunications, marketing, MarTech, and I handle digital and business transformation for my organization, now called Digitile. We've just rebranded ourselves, and I have written a couple of books around AI and marketing. So that's what.
Fantastic. I think you got the perfect combination of AI and marketing for this conversation today. Thanks a lot, Renus, for joining us today. Devang, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Devang Mehta. I'm based here in Mumbai. I also have 25 years of experience in operational and investing roles. I've done different things. I've been an engineer, I've been a marketer, I've been an angel investor, I've been a venture capitalist, and I spent the last 2 years advising early stage companies on fundraise and advising a couple of ultra HNIs on fund formation.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Devang. And it's very important to have the VC perspective as well on the solution and on the innovations in the marketing space. So thanks a lot for joining us today. Appreciate it. Now I would request Tom, CEO of Kuikads and moderator of the panel, to introduce himself. Tom, please.
Sure. Thanks very much, Pankaj. And just firstly, I'd like to second what you've said, to thank all of the panelists in the audience for assisting today. Been really looking forward to this conversation. So hi everybody, I'm Tom Stevens, CEO and co-founder of Kuikads, as Pankaj said. I am based in Madrid. I'm originally from New Zealand, but I've been here for the last 10 years, and most of my professional trajectory has been based around technology startups. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tom. And I know that you have prepared some really interesting questions for this panel today. So why don't we start with the panel discussion and let's start getting the insights from the leaders. Yeah?
Excellent. Thanks, Pankaj. Right. So to dive straight into it, I thought I'd pick somebody out. In this case, Anis, if you could be our first subject, please. Ultimately, I understand that C5I is a multinational AI and analytics company. And therefore, I was wondering, Anis, in your role as the global head of innovation and IP, you must come across all sorts of innovative solutions every day. Are there certain innovations or new solutions that are related to the marketing communications industry that you'd like to share with us today?
It's a very interesting question, Tom. It feels like I'm blinking an eye and I'm losing something which I may be really cutting edge today, especially in the marketing and the communication space. Like what ChatGPT did a couple of weeks back with Ghibli and everybody going crazy with Ghibli images, right? And now everybody going ahead and saying, hey, marketing communications, creative teams are dead because ChatGPT can literally do what any creative person would be doing. So, I'm sure there'll be a lot of conversation about ChatGPT today or OpenAI, but if I really look at the innovation which is happening, if I just take a step back and when you look at and dissect the marketing value chain or the jobs to be done framework, right, which exists out there, there's so much of innovation happening at right from strategy to execution to final analysis. And probably it will take me 1.5 hours to just talk about some of the smart ones which are already out there. But if I had to pick one, really, I think the biggest disruption which is happening now is in the insights as well as in the execution space. Less on the strategy, which is becoming a very interesting play. Strategy is still being left for humans to decide, versus execution and insights is being led to machines or a combination of human and machines. And I don't want to name any specific platform because it would be wrong because we're doing this with you quick. Right? But if I just say, those are the two areas where there is deep innovation, deep scale efforts. And it's not necessarily only by companies like yours or mine, but clients themselves are actually doing it themselves. So which is the other piece, which is disruption, not only the platform providers or service providers or solution providers. It's actually disruption happening by large companies themselves because it's free for everyone. And that's what LLMs have done that. And that's been the first time they have done something like this, that it's open for everybody. It's made the level playing ground. It's just level playing ground is the same. It's not that you had a better PhD and I had a less better PhD. Everybody's at the same level of knowledge. And that's what I would see. But if I have to answer your question, strategy and insights and execution. And when I talk about execution in marketing, it can be content, customer interactions, or any part of execution is being disrupted. And there are multi players out there. Not one is the right. Everybody is using multi-platforms.
Totally agree. And Anis, out of curiosity, do you think there are sort of subjects worth mentioning beyond generative AI in the marketing comm space?
Today everything is generative AI, which is unfortunate. Like 7-8 years ago, everything was big data, or a couple of years ago, it was all about digital transformation. So these buzzwords will come and go, right? What is important is how organizations are now, instead of adopting technologies, they're looking at their processes and saying, okay, what do we really need to take care of, right? And where do humans play a role? Where do humans do not play a role? So I would say it's the entire value chain being dissected, and also the value chain of AI and analytics being dissected. Where is the people? Where is the process? And when you think about technology, the classic people process technology, the technology is blown up into multiple levels. Like how does the data flow in? How does the insights flow in? How does the agents flow in, in all of these interactions and across the value chain? How does the technology, the core technology, which is core technology and accelerators, which will come in and play a role? How do partners come in and which point of the journey? So that's how it's being looked upon, completely dissecting it rather than saying, hey, there is AI or there is OpenAI or there is Anthropic and let's use it. Everybody has learned their lessons the hard way. Let's not jump on the new toy which has come out. Let's go ahead and look at what we really need, what we already have, what we need, what are the missing gaps, and what is that value or the ROI the new technology can give us.
And what actually serves the purpose you're looking for, right? Because to evade all of the hype around certain solutions that might not actually add that business value. Very well said. Thanks very much, Anis. And Azita, from your experience as Chief Digital Officer at Ethos, I know you're also a mentor at MIT and Stanford Online, both through Ethos and your various projects and the companies with which you deal with. Are there other sort of innovations that you would like to add to this conversation?
Yes, so absolutely. I would like to second what Anis is saying in terms of democratization of innovation. Before, when we were doing innovation, it was like around a specific topic, a specific group, depending on the company behind closed doors in terms of keep it secret and so on. Today with AI is really just unleashing innovation at all levels in an organization and focusing on what is the business challenge that group faces and how AI can help. And it depends on kind of the group that you speak with or you communicate with. You also need to dissect the type of AI, because machine learning has been around for a very long time in marketing in terms of predictive analytics and recommendation engines and so on. And then with large language models and that are built on machine learning kind of approach, but uses large amount of data to get trained. Generation of content, video, learning, all of that has accelerated. And then now the new market that we see in terms of agents, AI agents, there is not just knowing, but also doing things autonomously and applying that across the workflow, no matter if you are marketing or even if you are a user. And then the next level would be when these agents start connecting and you have an autonomous army of agents executing and delivering tasks. So in terms of looking at the market, across multiple clients, marketing team is on forefront of applying AI, but you see that the transformation wave across the whole organization in terms of making tools accessible to everyone, to innovate, no matter the function. But then the impact of the customer in terms of that receives that information from the marketing team in terms of personalization and in terms of the regional kind of adaptability that the messages need to have based on the dynamism that we see in AI just because of the advancement of technology. So in terms of that you receive, it's not like in the personalization is not just a choice anymore. This is something that is demanded, but also is not in vacuum. It actually depends on the region. It depends on the regulatory space that you operate in and also the cultural aspect. So that is today AI has made that possible to have that dynamism that you can, when you travel, you receive localized advert, but then in terms of how those regional regulation being applied in the technology is something that varies from product to product and from region to region.
Some very good points there, Azita. Thank you very much. Guys, before we move on to the next question, to offer that particular one to the floor, would any of the other panelists like to comment on some significant innovations in the marketing communications industry that they've observed over recent months?
Well, my comment will be, well, marketing is no longer about, stuff you used to make, but the stories you tell and how intelligently you deliver them. And what intelligence is coming in with generative AI is about granular audience segmentation, which is a very key aspect of how the content, which again is heavily influenced by generative AI, is delivered to audience based on individual behaviors and preferences. Also, I see video, AR and VR, as well as multi-channel ecosystem integration now becoming very important. That is another area that we see, influencing and affecting most of the products and audience itself.
Absolutely. I mean, being perfectly honest, the AR and VR space, I see it as such an enormous opportunity. And personally, it's something I know very little about. But I think we're going to see significant adoption of that kind of interactive content, continuously more so in future. Thanks very much, Renu. All right, so moving on to our second question. I'd like to call upon our friend in New York, Ellie, as the current CMO of Human Made Machine, former CMO of Sago, and various other companies related to research and data and so on. I was wondering whether you could tell us a bit about how brands are leveraging AI in the content creation space, some of the tools that you've come across, and of course, in customer engagement, obviously, where I know you're heavily focused in your most recent roles.
Yeah, I think the generative AI, I think that's the innovation here, because AI, I think, as Azita pointed out, has been in a lot of the tools and technologies that we've been using for many years. But now it's an opportunity for a lot of brands to talk about and bring it to the forefront and say, hey, we have AI, although it's been in the tool. But AI has created this opportunity for us as marketeers to create efficiency in what we do, right? And a lot of that has to do with this content creation piece of it, because there's so much of it, whether you're feeding it a draft or whether you're brainstorming with it, whether you're asking it to write the draft for you, there still needs to be that interaction when it comes to content creation, because you can't just completely rely upon it. But it has created a lot of efficiency. So I don't think that it has removed the use of the human in that process, but it's given us the opportunity to create things faster, think about it different ways. And I'm constantly brainstorming with it. I think going back to the conversation about strategy, I do think that it has implications of strategy, because I'm always talking to it and asking for, whether it's bouncing off my ideas or having it give me what they think about my ideas or brainstorm with me. And I do see the application of this through the funnel. And I'm not talking about just the engagement with the customer or the personalization. You can feed that into all the stages of the customer journey in the funnel to create those personalizations, efficiency, to nudge the person depending on where they are, based on those behavioral information we're getting from them, to nudge them in different ways. So, but I do think, Gen AI kind of came up. It's been in the works for a long time, and now all of a sudden it's updating and learning very quickly. So it is disrupting faster. But I think it's reached a point where it needs more time, because when you start to talk with it, even when it is providing sources, if you dig into some of those sources, sometimes you find they don't exist, right? I have had, when I am asking for it to give me ideas or edit something, or even look at my resume and give me feedback, when I probe it, it does come back and say, oh, you are right, or I was mistaken, or that's a very good question. So it doesn't know everything, and we can't depend on it and to say, oh, he knows everything. He told me I should do this and I should do it. So I do think there's still a lot of what that you have to probe it and force it and push it to think about, because it does change its mind. So I think that's where the opportunities are, and I think it still does speed things up and create some things that are faster. I love using it for social media, but it's also receiving some backlash, right? Because I think it is being used so much that people are saying, I don't want to read something that was created by AI, or I can tell that this is now created by AI. In one hand, we love the opportunity and everybody's gung-ho about, oh, Gen AI can help us do this and faster. And then you got the other hand where people are like, well, no, I don't want to know that you used AI. So there's this balance that we are trying to achieve here. And how do we tell stories, right? How do we tell the stories that are authentic, but we kind of got some help from AI? And I do think that in the next few years, that's where the brands are going to be. They need to find that balance of how does AI create efficiency and automation, but I'm not completely relying on it for storytelling, because people are looking for that authenticity. And also I want to down on the VR stuff, because I do think because of all this AI disruption that's coming, especially with the new generation, they're looking for more of that experience. They want that to touch things. They want to feel things. They want to feel the experience, and they want to know it's more authentic. So I think those experiences and the VR and so on will become more important and innovative over the next few years. I don't know all of your question, but.
No, absolutely. And Elliot, like follow up, with human-made machine and a lot of the test and research you carry out around campaigns and creatives, do you pick up initially when you is it easy to identify when somebody's used LLMs or generative AI in the creation of their campaigns or strategy? Can you tell?
Yes, we can, but I think our model is that they're providing us with the creative, so we know upfront whether it's AI or not. But as we look at ads and we're testing ads that are posted, not given to us, right? Yes, we're able to pick up on those cues. Yeah. And we test those in what people feel about those, and I think those are some interesting insights to understand how people engage with those ads, if it's created in AI or by old ways.
100%. Thanks very much, Ellie. And Devang, from your perspective on the investment side, have you anything to add around how you're seeing your portfolio companies leveraging AI in their marketing efforts, again, in regards to the content creation, the campaign optimization, or customer engagement?
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty ubiquitous and widespread. I mean, the way I describe it is that AI, the word AI and ML is what the word software became in the 90s.
Yeah.
So if you weren't a software company, you wouldn't raise capital because you were assumed to be a capital-intensive company in hardware. So people stopped using the word software in their business plans because it was assumed that you were not a fundable business if you weren't a software company. So the same way, I think good companies and savvy startups don't use AI ML in the tech. I mean, they don't say I'm an AI company. It's assumed you do. What do you do with AI ML is what is important. Now, where the best innovations are coming, see, marketing has always had one nirvana, the segment of one. It is always assumed that a company that could create customer segments of just one. Every customer is unique in terms of their needs, their propensity to pay, the psychographic needs, the timeliness of purchase, and all that. The moment you can segment at that granular level, you'll be one of the most successful companies of all time. I think we're finally reaching that point where you have the ability to first to identify. Let's say someone comes to your website. It just can't be an anonymous user. You know who the person is, where they're coming from, what they have bought in the past, how often they come to your website. Fairly easily now you can tell what they're coming for, whether it's informational, it's transactional, it's comparative analyses. You should be able to gauge that pretty easily. And then you hyper personalize content to the person to the point where they are sure to achieve what they came for, to find pricing information, to find competitors, to get a PR quote, or to just make a purchase. So I think companies are adopting that, and companies that facilitate that for any website. Let's say there's actually a software that can help any B2B SaaS company create a segment of one. Will be the kind of company that'll be a unicorn in the future.
Have you found that unicorn, do you think, yet, Devang?
I hope so. I'm not at a I'm not able to reveal investments or what I'm looking at or where the sheets are at this point, but I think suffice to say, this is the kind of power that AI and ML has. And this is, of course, just marketing. I mean, there's so many other things, sentiment analyses, lead management, content targeting, predictive analyses. There's so much out there, but it all lends itself to the same one ideal scenario where you can create a segment of one. I think that the segment of one captures the beauty of the ability of a marketing AI software to do it perfectly. And yes, I hope to be on the cap table of one of these in the near future.
Excellent insight. Thanks very much, Devang. So I guess, we've touched, I think the opportunities related with Gen AI, we're all very familiar with, no? Increased speed and scalability, cost efficiency, increased data-driven personalization, the granularity that many of you have already commented on. Ellie also touched on.
Sorry, I think Anis has a comment. Yeah.
Apologies, Anis. Thanks. Please go ahead.
No, I just want to, just based on what Ellie was talking about, the content piece, right? I would just make a comment here. Everybody is getting excited, but even the new generation, and even I would say when I talk about the new generation, and I gave a reference of my own generation, I would make a comparison of VFX way back in the 1990s to VFX today. When we saw VFX in 1990s, we could easily make out the old King Kong movies in 1980s and 70s. We knew that it was done in a small miniature studio where somebody took a small King Kong and made it large. And it didn't sound real and look real. When you see King Kong today, you know what it looks real. Same way in all the AI generated content, this question which you asked, Tom, that do you see make sense? That's where the difference really comes in, right? A lot of people are actually conversing on Reddit. And if you just search on YouTube right now, AI movie, right? You will see so many movies now, 5-minute worth of movies now being showing up on YouTube, which are being posted. And when you look at it, you easily switch off because you don't feel it right. You don't see it right? Like that's why I'm giving the reference of the old King Kong movie, right? You could see that somebody is walking on a stick like a puppet and doing that, right? Not the real King Kong movie. So big movie buff, by the way. So, when I see an AI generated content, I can see, hey, this is not my side, right? So going back to that originality of content and creative is still there, but it's not too far that it will get replaced. What happened? So that's the only point. It's not there yet, but it's not that far that it will not get replaced. So the technology is more active.
And that, honestly, Anis, is the perfect segue into the next question around the risks or issues associated with that Gen AI. Because I agree, especially in the image and video space, there are lots of impressive solutions, or at least videos and content available online that will claim to be generated with AI. My big question is, how many prompts were required to create that piece? Does it really look realistic? Does the audience connect with it in the same way as if it were manually production company produced? I think it's getting pretty close, and we've all seen some pretty amazing material, but I wonder how much of it has been touched up with After Effects or similar editing software. It's like I think it's making massive leaps, and I think it's not far away, as you say, but that it still actually hasn't quite got there, at least to be a scalable solution or fully automated at scale. Which I guess, again, ties into this question around the risks associated with relying on AI in marketing and storytelling. And I was wondering, sort of beyond that, which we've already commented, whether Renu, you had anything further you'd like to talk about the risks associated with Gen AI?
Sure. I would start with that my firm belief is that AI should augment creativity, not replace it. So the magic lies in human and AI collaboration. It's not either or. So deploy AI for ideation, drafting, but maintain human editors for quality control and, more importantly, ethical oversight, because we keep hearing about copyright violations, uh, deep fakes. All that is also becoming part of now what we call as output for marketing. But the risks that I see is one very generic output sometimes we see from AI. So overuse can lead to in my view at least, bland and impersonal content, even though we keep talking about personalization. Then the second part is the risk that I see is biases. Stereotypes can be perpetuated. The model that you use, the data that you use, and the people who use that. And then the biggest risk, in my opinion, is loss of human connection. At the end of the day, we are using all this generative AI for marketing to sell something to a human. We haven't reached a stage where we're selling to a machine. So loss of human connection, automated storytelling may miss the emotional depth, which humans are very good at. So those are the risks that I see.
Thanks, Renu. Very well said. Would any of the other panelists like to complement Renu's response?
Yes, so I would like to add security as well as privacy issues into the list as well. Because again, the specifically generative AI is being trained on data, and in terms of permission of that data being actually used for training or not, it is one thing. And second is the security risks that any new tools that is available there, if they are not being kind of tested and matured and so on, how many doors they open for security hacks into the organization. So those are the two aspects that this acceleration of innovation is exciting, but we need to catch up when it comes to privacy regulation, data privacy, and security as well. And going back to the question around the investment, I know that in terms of large investments are going towards AI startups that delivers security tools for AI and can operate in the regulatory space better.
Yeah, I suppose that also explains why we're seeing so much interest in the cybersecurity industry, at least in the startup sphere or ecosystem here in Spain. Lots of acceleration programs dedicated solely to cybersecurity. It has all the sense in the world. Thanks, Azita. Did I overhear Ellie was also wanting to contribute to that response?
I think around that privacy, I mean, there's going to be certain industries that are going to be lagging or maybe can never fully use AI, highly regulated industries, right? Like pharma, healthcare, financial services. So I do think that some of those risks that were mentioned, especially by Azita, they're going to influence how much of the AI can be used by some organizations and people.
Definitely something to bear in mind for our go-to-market and business development strategy. We've experienced that firsthand in certain markets with certain categories of industry for sure.
Yeah. And I had a quick point there, Tom. I think this might be a slight digression, but you talked about AI and the art of storytelling. I mean, if you look at the academic world, right, where plagiarism used to be such a big issue, where copying a term paper or just modifying it slightly and submitting it turned out to be such a big issue at some time for Harvard students and all that. Now, if people use generative AI, like a set of marketing students for a term paper, and most of the term papers turn out to be the same, how are you ever going to modify academic policy around plagiarism and usage of Gen AI? And it's a perfect example of a scenario where AI is really not welcome in some sense.
But to that point, I think that's a very good point about the entire paper being written by ideas of AI. But there are AI tools that are so common in our everyday, like Grammarly, right? Writer, that helps us write better. So I have to do a question also for students that run their paper through these to make sure that the grammar is correct. How many teachers are going to be marking up grammar now these days, right? So there's, a lot of, in the education field, I think it's a very interesting opportunity and risk to just kind of watch how it unfolds.
Gen AI is a comparison to
Those people definitely useful, but I think 90% of our term paper is algorithmically written. I think it's anyways.
Both good points. I compare in this sense the use of these language models, Gen AI, to calculators in mathematics some years ago, right? Is it really necessary to know what are the calculations behind the answers? Or in this case, the theory and grammar accompanying those responses? It's definitely an interesting debate that in and of itself.
No, Tom, so just to add to what you just talked about mathematics, actually, today I saw it on LinkedIn. There is actually a post by Yan, who's Facebook's chief AI officer, and they did a test where they ran some complicated maths, which was never documented, on some of the language models, and it failed miserably. The reason is because today, most of the AI systems are just like, I say, chaotic parrots. They just say what they know, what they've been taught, rather than a new knowledge, right? And that kind of leads into the question you spoke about, the risk, the point about risk here. And I'll just make 2 points, one for and one against, right? AI here. For AI, I say it's a tool like a syringe, right? If you give that same syringe to a doctor, to a cop, and to a terrorist, and to a child, it's the same tool which will have 4 different outcomes. So same with AI, a same tool with 4 different users, it can have different outcomes. And when we often talk about biases in AI, right? I always question who's building AI, right? It's us human beings. And by the way, we have biases day to day, right? And we have to introspect ourselves before we start introspecting our technology, which is being built by us. The point out here is like 2 years ago, I would do these tests on most of the image, because this is all about video and image generation platforms. I would just type these 2 prompts, and all of you can run this test on your own, any image creation. I can tell you some of the platforms I've got it right, but these 2 prompts, I would typically test and see what results I would get. The first one was a hacker sitting on a computer. I would not want to name the country or the place or the demographic where it will typically show up, but you would know where, when I'm making that reference, it will typically show that country with the languages showing up that people are usually hackers, and it will create an image from there. Now, who gave that insights to the LLM that hackers only come from there, as an example? The second one was a young girl sitting and playing with abacus. Now, abacus is not a very well-known instrument which teaches mathematics globally, and it would only create an image of a young girl from a specific demographic only, right? So these 2 examples, now it has changed. Recently, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, he made a statement that write a prompt on any of the language model where a person is writing with left hand, and you would see always it will create an image with people writing with right hand. So there are these biases which are already inherently possible or relevant or actually there in all of these language models. So, and it's created by us, by the way. When I say us, all of us, because we fed that information to the learning knowledge which it has been built on. So I'll just stop here, but that's the point on risk which you were talking about. Don't blame it.
If I can add to that, I actually ran this exercise on myself and I posted about it on LinkedIn. I had Gen AI run me through at least a subset of questions, all the behavioral questions from all the exams you would take personally or at a corporate level, right? The Myers-Briggs and the DISC and all that. And it ran through, I think, maybe 10 types of different quizzes. And then I told it a few personal things about myself. Like I love playing, I'm a beach volleyball player. I play this, I travel. And I said, based on what you know about me, create an image. it created a man. But I think at some point it was confused about what it was. But yeah, because of all the traits that came through, it assumed that I was a man. And then when I went and told it that I was a woman, then it tried to create the same image, but I could tell it was a little softer. Like beach volleyball was a lot more prominent in the image versus the computer, right? So I agree. I think it's very interesting to see the biases that are inherent in the tool right now.
100%. Thanks, guys. To move on to diving into a little bit further into personalization and how data analytics is enhancing personalization in marketing. Azita, is that a topic that you're able to speak on?
Absolutely. So, well, the data analytics is has been, again, like machine learning has been around for a long time, but now is the speed and the scale of data that it can utilize and access, as well as in terms of be able to create that real-time, analyze the real-time behavior preferences and create the marketing messages that changes from a location to location, from person to person. And in terms of, as I mentioned before, this is not just a technology game, it's also regulatory and location-based, as well as cultural. So, for instance, the personalization and using the data analytics for that, it might have different application in the US than has in Asia. The data sharing is more normalized, for instance. So in terms of providing that personalized experience for the end user, looking at multiple layers when applying data analytics is very important. And also the toolkit that's being used, going back to the topic of biased, for instance. And Ellie, by the way, I had the same experience. And in terms of the tool, assuming that I am a man, asking for information about travel and so on. So this is something that needs to be looked at in different layers. But the speed and the dynamism that are available at the moment and the level of data that is available to the data analytics team needs to be ensured that it looks at the location, looks at the preference and the cultural aspect to be able to create that optimal outcome.
Totally agree. And out of curiosity, the solutions that you've seen in the market, I mean, when it comes to the dynamic personalization or real-time personalization based on a user or visitor's immediate activity, is the personalization that you've seen primarily to date, has it been language or text-based or static-based as opposed to video or a bit of everything?
Well, we talked about it. When it's video, you immediately can see that is AI generated. So in terms of the level of dynamism and speed to be able to personalize the content is always, the level of maturity is on the text content rather than video and images at the moment. But going back to the example that was around syringe and so on, while AI is a tool, I'm sure this is going to catch up very, very soon. And we have seen that the level of development in the last 2 years. So at the moment, the focus is on, or the abilities is on personalization and market dynamism around text generation. We're going to see this very soon in terms of video and images as well.
Fantastic. Would anybody else like to comment on the data analytics enhancing personalization in marketing?
I don't think
Yeah,
it's there yet. I wonder how many brands or companies in the MarTech space are going to disagree with me right now. But there's a lot of claim that this exists. I don't think it's quite there yet. And it is a little bit still, I think, to Azita's point, garbage in, garbage out, right? We see that with the data in our CRM tools. If you don't have the right data, if you don't have good, clean data, what do you really know about that individual? It becomes even more difficult in a B2B. I think this might have more B2C implications as people, you can really understand a little bit better of the user behavior. And we're so willing to give, like, I think when it comes to our personal stuff or shopping habits and whatnot, we're so willing to give information. But when it comes in a B2B, we're very reluctant and we want to kind of hold back. So I don't think that there is enough data to truly understand. And I think with the biases, and we change as buyers and as human beings, we're changing a lot faster. We're changing on a daily basis, our preferences, what we want, what we like, what we don't like. It's changing so fast that I don't know if personalization has been able to keep up with those changes. But do I think it's going to get better? Absolutely. And I do think the video and the text and all that would be, even within a year or 2 years is going to be so much more than it is now. But I also think there's always going to be a little bit of a catch up, trying to catch up to how the consumer is changing.
I think one of the issues there as well, in terms of video generation for kind of, if we were to think about ad servers and programmatic or display ads, the computing power, the time at which it takes to generate videos of sufficient quality, I don't know if it's quick enough yet. I know, at least from the Kuikads team, we haven't got there. It's on the roadmap, but we're not there yet. It's still sitting around 7 seconds to generate that video, which isn't quick enough. But sorry, Renu, I heard you had something to share as well.
There is another perspective around personalization, but it's not real time. We are seeing personalized videos being generated, but for a different use case. For example, an insurance company onboarding a customer once a policy is sold. That kind of videos are pretty common these days because they use data and they have live, call to action, clickability, all that. But you're right. I haven't seen till now live videos being altered based on choices being made in real time or intent behavior being shown. But from a non-video perspective, we see micro-segmentation and real-time personalization all the time. I mean, take, for example, Amazon's frequently bought together feature. It drives revenues, and it's a micro-segmentation based on what you're looking at, what you're trying to buy, it is suggesting. So that also is there, but real-time, yes, it will take some bit more computing power, I guess.
Indeed.
Chatbots were intended to create that personalization, right? And to a point that they do, they can walk you through. But how many of us get frustrated after a few questions? You're typing in customer service, represent, talk to someone. So, yeah.
But yes, I would like to emphasize on access to data as well, as Ellie said, because data is the fuel, and not having the right data or access to the right data, that also fuels the information that will be presented.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. We're moving on to our fifth and final question for the panel. I think it'd be appropriate to start with Devang, given his expertise in the investment arena, but I'm sure that everybody will want to comment on what the future of marketing technology looks like. So not just thinking about where Gen AI is today, but marketing technology in general over the coming 5 to 10 years, how you guys think it's going to evolve. Devang, over to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I don't want to belabor the same point, but I think if you just look at this purely mathematically, any company selling anything online or even offline, but let's just say online, will maximize revenue if it captures what is known in economics as the consumer surplus, maximum consumer surplus, which is basically the highest percentage of what a customer is willing to pay for a product or a service. And that can be best done if hyper-personalized content is delivered to that person through mobile or web at the right time, at the right place, at the right intent, and the right inflection point. So marketing software that enables this across media, that is mobile, web, or others, or even offline, and captures the customer's intent, maybe through 5 touch points, going into a bank physically, going to a mobile app, going to a website, chatting with an agent, and making a customer service call, and other touch points. If you capture all that, create a persona which is just representative of that one person, and sell the maximum number of products and services to that person, a software that enables that will be, the best fundable company in marketing.
An amazing response. I don't know how anyone can be more articulate than that. Thanks very much, Devang. I totally agree. The concept of a full stack AI-driven marketing ecosystem, ensuring that all of the right touch points at the right times, as you said, and maximizing purchase price, I think. If we can obtain it, it's an amazing achievement. Next, we'll go over to Anis. I know that C5I has been in expansion phase, acquiring companies as well. Are there any hints as to what you think the future of marketing technology is looking like?
I think if you have to not put on the investor hat, but I would say it's going to be more how do you complete the Lego structures, which companies have been missing from the Lego pieces, which they've never been able to get to. For example, there was a lot of conversation about personalization, and I don't want to chime in because one of the fundamental reasons why personalization fails is companies lack data about an individual. And second thing is, to Devang's point, you're moving from an app to a physical store to a website to talking to an agent on the phone. If you ask large corporates, can you track that customer? The answer will be no. And the fundamental reason is that those 4 systems or 5 systems don't even talk to each other. When we talk about n is equal to 1, there is n equal to 1,000. I have heard, I will not take the name of the bank, they've had customers who are in their system who are probably more than 200 years old or have not even been born yet. Like what the US government is finding when they are doing their audit on the people living in the systems, right? And getting social aid, people who are 200-year-old, 250-year-old, and there was a famous statement. So even companies have that. Forget about US government finding it in USA, even companies have that same problem. So I would say it's going to be more Dockerized. Just to answer your question, Tom, it's going to be more Dockerized. It's going to be more Lego small pieces, which companies are going to build in. There's going to be marketplaces. Hey, I want to build a Star Wars ship. They will have Lego pieces which will come together and build it for them. Or they want to build a castle, they will have Lego pieces. It's not going to be monolithic ERP-based marketing systems, which has been the way most of people have bought technology. It's already changing. That's where I see the future to be.
Thanks very much, Anis. Totally agree. And it means there's opportunity for us startups and our niche offerings. So I certainly hope that it evolves, as you say, the Lego pieces that add up to create that marketing ecosystem that companies require, especially big corporates. Should we go over to Azita next?
Yes, so if anyone is fond of sci-fi and have read Philip K. Dick book, Minority Report, or have seen the Steven Spielberg movie that came out with Tom Cruise in early 2000s, that's the real personalized marketing, real time, there when he changes his eyeballs or biometrics and enter a mall and get ad for a t-shirt for the person that he has borrowed eyes from. So that is really the future. And 10 years ago, when we were looking at digital technologies, we would say, oh, some of the Minority Report designers start coming up. So I think in terms of the future of marketing, when we have resolved all the technical aspect, as well as embedded the issue with bias, the regulatory aspect, the localization, and all of them into the algorithm, that's what we would see in terms of biometrics marketing based on your not only your location but also biometrics, knowing what you prefer, where you are at, and what is on sale that would match your preference. I don't know if we are away 5 years or 10 years from that, but with the speed of the technology innovation that is happening, it is definitely heading that direction. But the issue around the compute power, and also this thing that many of the companies have gone on crusade about decarbonization and the footprint of the products and the level of compute that is required for utilizing ChatGPT and this level of personalization and compute is something that needs to be addressed. Many of these AI companies start looking at power plants, nuclear power plants for energy to help with that compute power. Just staying on that personalization, I think if you haven't seen Minority Report, watch that. That's where the personalized marketing is heading 5 to 10 years from now.
It's a great analogy. I get immediately transplanted to that movie. And I wonder personally, given that I struggle with shop assistants as it is, I wonder whether privacy laws will enable me to dial up or dial down those levels of personalization in a Minority Report type world. But yeah, a very interesting vision and totally agree. Thank you. And then where should we go? We'll go to Venu next.
Well, interesting aspect about new marketing AR platforms. That's what was being discussed. But my focus is basically the investor hotspots are around. I mean, Gen AI is definitely there, but MarTech stack with low code, no code. That's on the fly. CDPs are becoming very important for real-time intelligence. And interestingly, AI content validation. That is again an area which is going to become slightly more important. But who knows? I mean, going by sci-fi, voice and search convergence is increasing. So you may see a whole different way of marketing because your search now moves to voice. And then think how that will impact the marketing. That's one other area of focus.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Venu. And last but certainly not least, Ellie, how's your vision of the future?
Wow, going after all of everyone's comments. I mean,
sorry.
They're all right on. No, I do think the hyper-personalization and how we deliver that content and how we communicate based on your preference, that will become key. But I want to turn it up inwards a little bit and a pain point from a CMO perspective and marketing, where we haven't quite figured out, and it's probably more B2B, but we haven't quite figured out the attribution model, right? You're under the gun to create personalization, hyper-personalization, and reach out to customers, get the intent data to make sure you're at the right time with the right offer. But we haven't quite figured out the attribution model and how we can show the value of marketing and what it's done, right? So I do think that that's something that has been, within our tool system for a long time, but no one's quite, if you ask any CMO, they haven't quite figured out. It's a challenge. So I would like AI to fix that first before we get to the hyper-personalization. And I also wanted to make a comment about the one-to-one, where you're understand enough and you make the right offer. I think the challenge would be interesting. Are you going to change your price points based on all the different models of interest that you might pick up from a customer? So what is the range of the price you're willing to offer to get a customer in the door? That's an interesting question when it comes to that one-to-one model offer. But
excellent. Well, everybody, thank you for such a wonderful, wide-ranging conversation. We've touched on so many different topics, largely related to and built upon generative AI. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to Pankaj. I believe we're at time on the panel discussion. Pankaj, are you there?
I'm on mute. I was talking on mute. Hey, thanks a lot, Tom. But yeah, thanks to all the panelists for this very insightful conversation. We talked about the excitement that we have about the innovations that are happening in the marketing communication space. Obviously, we focus more on Gen AI. I know that there are other innovations as well. Probably nobody talks about metaverse and augmented reality anymore. But yeah, I was quite excited to see the kind of innovations that are changing this industry. And also, we talked about the biases, we talked about the frustrations that we have with the Gen AI. So I think it was extremely interesting conversation. And now it's time to move on to the next segment of the event, which is roast session. And we call it roast session because whenever founders talk to potential investors, customers, partners, they hear great things. They never hear a very brutal, honest feedback from their audience. Or sometimes they get some sugar-coated BS. And as we know, sugar-coated BS does not help founders in building the great business, right? So it's very important for the founders to know the real truth and from the industry leaders. And that's why we host this roast session, so that the founders like Tom can get very direct feedback from the industry leaders, learn from it, and improve their overall solution, go-to-market strategy, differentiation, and scalability. Again, we want to help founders, and that's the reason we do that. It's not because we hate them or we hate we hate startups. Okay, so now let's move on to the next segment, and I would request Tom to share a bit more about Kuikads, about solution, about go-to-market strategy, and let's get the feedback from the leaders. Yeah.
Thanks, Pankaj. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, honestly, the idea of pitching Kuikads now, having had learned about all of your extensive knowledge and expertise, is a little bit intimidating, but we'll see how we go. Hang on, I'm just going to move those, out of the way. Excellent. All right. So what is Kuikads? Well, Kuikads is a Spanish startup. And what we do is we ultimately help companies increase their engagement, conversion, and retention rates, therefore, ultimately, their revenues through personalized video. Excuse me, there we go. So the problem that we've identified, right? It turns out, based on our own data and also supported heavily by market research, that personalized video can boost conversion rates as it stands where we are at with the degree of personalization that we can create and the data we can get access to, up to 300%. The curious thing, however, is that less than 1% of companies are currently leveraging them. Now, why? Our determination is that it's to date proven very costly, right? Because there hasn't been the automated solutions that enable it. Any technological solutions, it is a complex piece of technology to build. And of course, to roll it out to make it scalable is very challenging. But of course, that's where we come in with our solution, funnily enough, right? So the Kuikads solution, what we've done, we've built a solution that can generate millions of hyper-personalized videos on demand. It's not quite real time, as we discussed previously. We're still at around a 7-second generation time, but it's pretty quick, especially for the scale at which we're capable of producing or generating these videos. The sorts of use cases that companies want to leverage these videos for are infinite. We've spent the last 3 months meeting with all sorts of companies, mainly corporate, but from different industries. And with each one, they come up with new and different communication / marketing kind of use cases for our technology. Some of the common ones that are easy to grasp, we could talk about abandoned cart recovery videos. We can talk about upselling and cross-selling, brand awareness and loyalty, like happy birthday messages. We will come to some video examples shortly to clearly explain those. Ultimately, what we are responsible for is the generation of that content. So the data is shared with us, we create the video, we make it available or deliver it to the customer, whether it be to their content distribution network or to them directly for sharing. How do they then share that with their audience? By a direct messaging service, whether that be WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or otherwise, MMS. It could be directly within their applications, or it could be embedded in email, which also comes with its challenges. Obviously, certain email providers won't allow the displaying or playing of videos directly within their emails. However, others do, and you can get away with thumbnails and redirections. In terms of the market opportunity, obviously it's enormous. Our total addressable market sits at over 300 billion euros. Our serviceable addressable market at over 50 billion. And our go-to-market strategy is top-down. We are initially targeting large businesses who are capable of requesting millions of videos. And as I said before, over the last few months, since we went to market with the solution, we are receiving immense interest and some deals on the table, which I'll go into in a minute. Relative to the competition, we are the only solution that offers full personalization, total automation, real-time, almost real-time generation, and true scalability. A lot of investors, they'll ask, well, the classic investment question, how defensible is your solution? What happens if another company tries to do the same? We always lean on the fact that our technology is proprietary. We'll go into what that technology is in a minute. Our unit economics are unbeatable, so we win on price point, or at least on our cost basis. We have a lot of space to play with pricing. To the best of our knowledge, we are the first mover in this market, so we have the advantage of being first. That logically leads to the data network effects, and thus the data that we can collect, how we can ultimately improve our models, we can get industry-specific expertise and improve the performance of our videos relative to anybody else. Then there's the part which I haven't yet touched on, but is around the fact that we are doing this via API at present. That means that the sales cycle is a little bit longer than we would otherwise like. But once we're through the door, it's a very sticky customer, typically looking at several years at least. In terms of the product, how does it work? So I mentioned we have our proprietary technology stack. That is comprised ultimately of two engines, one of which is what we call our composition engine. The other is the Gen AI engine. We then have our proprietary API, through which basically our customers or our clients, they extract the relevant customer data, which might be the name of their customer, their date of birth, or the date on which a certain activity has taken place. In this case, of the example we're seeing on the screen, it's an abandoned cart video with various images of the products that have been left in that cart. So all of that data is extracted from the client's CRM or CDP system. It is shared with us via our API, which activates the generation engines. That is made consistent with our client's requirements, whether that include things like voiceover, music, and the general template of the video, and so on. And as I said before, we deliver that to the customer or make it available to our client, who then shares it with their end customer. So to launch into a couple of examples, now I've removed sound so as to not deafen everybody, but the first example is going to be this one of Zara, so I'll talk you through them. And apologies, they're in Spanish, but I'll translate. So in this case, the video says, "Hello, Teresa, you've left the following items in your cart." It then shows images of each item that's been left in the cart, the name of the product, and the price. It finally ends with a CTA, a discount code. The second example is like an upselling or cross-selling example of the Dyson V8, or for Dyson. It's saying that given that you acquired your Dyson 5 years ago, perhaps you're interested in the new and improved model that serves as a mop and as a vacuum cleaner. And by the way, it's on sale, Dyson. Finally, we have the loyalty or retention type strategy from Mas Orange. They wanted to wish a happy birthday to 2 million of their customers. It's ultimately saying, "Diego, happy birthday. We hope that you're enjoying the snow this season," because they know that he's a passionate skier, and they wish him a wonderful day, finishing with a CTA to keep their brand Mas Orange front of mind. When it comes to our company's evolution, we've achieved an awful lot over the last 18 months. At the end of 2023, we were fortunate to win an important innovation grant here in Spain at 325,000 euros. We've just, over the last month, closed a pre-seed round of just over €500,000 with a couple of leading VCs and business angels here in Spain. We have pre-approval for a proposal valued at 350,000 euros with a multinational telco company. We may have just seen an example video of that. And we also have closed a couple of pilots that valued over 17,000 euros. Beyond that, acceleration program, both here in Spain with SeedRocket and EthAum. And over the last 3 months, we have quickly developed a sales pipeline valued at over 20 million euros. In terms of our business model, it's very simple and scalable. We charge per video generated, and as it stands, our prices range from between 5 and 20 cents typically. What we've seen actually over recent weeks is that there's a big gap between the big corporate enterprise who wants to order millions of videos and the smaller enterprise, but who might have a higher ticket item, but has a lower requirement or demand for videos. And it's interesting playing with prices. So we're actually looking at a couple of different pricing models, ultimately one for the bigger players who are looking at millions of videos, and another who could potentially be looking at the tens of thousands of videos, noticing that with a higher ticket item, a more expensive video still adds significant value to their sales funnel. To put everything in perspective, with just 13 enterprise clients, Kuikads has the potential to be at over 10 million euros in annual recurring revenue. In terms of our go-to-market strategy, there are various, obviously, channels that we are implementing, one of which is our outbound sales strategy. We're also working with channel partners. In our case, that's marketing agencies and digital consulting firms. They basically have the pre-existing relationships with enterprise customers and are able to introduce us for attractive commission schedules. We're also in the process of developing a self-service no-code platform. This is ultimately to facilitate easier integrations, both on the CRM and CDP side and also on the distribution side. And hopefully one day that will evolve into a wrapper that will be available on app marketplaces like in Shopify or in CRM systems like HubSpot to further democratize this service. Obviously, none of this would be possible without my amazing team. So I'm lucky to have two great co-founders, Jaime Zavalla, a Spanish chap who spent the last 10 years in B2B sales and account management roles, both corporate and startup, both here in Spain and in Portuguese. He's trilingual. In Portugal, sorry. We then have Jack Stevens, my brother and CTO. He is a full stack developer and expert in APIs. He's a two-time founder, and prior to joining Kuikads, he was a senior API developer at EasyVet, a veterinary software company, a successful New Zealand startup that was acquired by Edix Laboratories in America. We then have Vadim Fedorov, our secret sauce, so to speak. He is originally from Russia. He's been living in Spain for the last 15 years. He has a PhD in computer vision and image analysis. He is ultimately responsible for the very complex Python code behind our composition and Gen AI engines. And he's a real asset. He's our chief scientific officer. Finally, me in the role of CEO. I'm a three-time founder. A single exit, like proprietary exit prior to that. And similarly with ETF-Matic, I was the chief commercial officer, a British fintech company, which we ultimately sold to a Belgian bank, Ion Bank. Then we've got a couple of advisors. We've got a great lead investor in the business angel side, but we can go more into that later if need be. Now, finally, when it comes to investment and the use of funds, we're not actually fundraising at present. As I mentioned before, we've just closed our pre-seed round. But if we were, we'd be looking to raise 2 million euros, ideally at a 10 million euro pre-money valuation. What is on our roadmap? I talked a bit before around the development of our self-service no-code platform. We want to double down, obviously, on our development resource and sales and marketing. We're already started experimenting in other markets. Currently in Mexico, we're about to go Anglo-Saxon with the UK and America just to see whether there are different appetites for adoption of innovative technologies. And our financial goals are to try and reach 125,000 euros of monthly recurring revenue. And now we come to the part where you get to roast me. Please be friendly. And thanks very much for listening.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks a lot, Tom. And I think we are ready to take questions, right? Yeah, Devang, please.
Hey, Tom. Great presentation. I never roast startups, but I think there was one fundamental, shall we say, rookie mistake. never put the post money on a slide deck.
Okay.
Let's say someone liked it so much and thought it's worth 20 million euros, for 10% dilution. And then, oh, by the way, you said 10 million. So sure, I'll take care of 20% dilution. So never put post money on a deck. Just say, I'm raising 2 million and these are the use of proceeds, marketing, engineering, SG&A, corporate development, and then valuation just comes up at the very end. It's negotiated, and it's never put out in the public domain.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think it's become evident that the Spanish valuations are very different to the world price kind of valuations. I appreciate very much your advice there. Thank you.
Thank you, Devang.
Tom, Anis, aside, couple of thoughts. Again, I'm not going to roast you, like Devang mentioned. I think your competitive analysis in terms of that you are the first, I would challenge that. I have seen other platforms. In fact, we know many of them, not one, who do exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they have much more larger customers, and I have seen the demos and I have seen it and I live it. They can create personalized content to 100,000 to 1 million in a minute with customer data coming in, right? So, and it's not Canva, it's not HeyGen, it's none of them. And it's actually video, right? And images. So probably you may want to kind of double click and understand your competition landscape, like whom are you going to play against in the larger schemes. We often try to call these big names like Canva and HeyGen. Their use cases are very different. How companies and organizations look at them is very different versus these other players who shall not be named are very different, and they are in a similar space like you. So that's the first piece, right? The second thought, by the way, I see enterprises using After Effects and HTML. What you just showed, the Zara video, can be done by HTML or After Effects. So when you show that demo, like the way you constructed it, the way the slide was presented, you don't need your PhD scientist to doing that, right? That doesn't show any differentiation. Using HTML5, which has been there for many, many years now, you can actually create those videos, and you can do that with the intern. So probably in terms of the examples which you show to what your platform or your true capabilities are, that's the second piece, which I would say. And the last piece is, see, marketing is all about ROI. If you ask any marketer, has their budget gone year over year? The answer is no. Their budgets are being cut year over year. Right? You can go ahead and testify to that, right? No marketers' budgets are being, but there are expectations from the executives and the board is saying, produce more. Like with the budget which you have, when I say produce more, your return on ad spends, return on spend is far more. So if it was 10x, they are expected to 12x, 15x, 20x, right? So with your content, it just shows that you're creating more, but the value or the impact is not to be seen yet. You don't talk about that, right? Like what's like, okay, sending birthday presents or birthday videos or cart abandonment. What's the yield? What's the outcome? What's the impact, right? That's something which is missing. And if you can measure that, that is going to be the killer in this piece. So those are the three thoughts.
Yeah, chime in here. I think exactly. I think every time I talk to a CEO, they all feel that there's no competition or there's no direct competition. Nobody does what we do, but there are indirect competitors, right? And to think about, is it going to be easier for a small and nimble company to come in and compete with you? Or is it going to be a large enterprise who has a lot of money and resources and can kind of buy that technology or compete with you? So that's one. Your ICP, define it, because that when you start to invest in marketing, it becomes very crucial to know exactly who you're going after with the amount of budget that you have, because I think to the point that was made, you don't have infinite amount of money out there. So who are you going to go after? Where are you getting the bigger bank from, right? And then your ICP, your differentiator. I think when you showed this slide, or when I look at your website, what is a true differentiator? If I ask you in 15 seconds or less, tell me, what do you do that nobody else can do? Really be tight on that positioning, because it's going to feed into your ICP and how you go to market, right? And lastly, going back to what you just said about the impact of the data, are you gathering data from your customers to say how impactful and how successful was those types of videos? What kind of ROI are you getting from them? Because that's going to help you. What do you market and to whom and what kind of company? Because you know that is where they're seeing impact. So I'll pause there.
And Tom, thank you for the presentation. I think we talked about risks during the session before, and one of the risks that I raised was around security. Mm-hmm. And having access to your clients' data, to their CRM, to be able to pull this information and create the videos and so on. What are the security safeguards that you have in terms of not being liable for cyber hack into your client system?
It's a totally valid question, one that I'm not necessarily capable of answering. I need my CTO on the call. I know that at the point of our evolution, it's not something that's been addressed seriously enough. I know that we've looked at things like, what data are we controlling or processing? When it comes to the video generation, we don't necessarily process particularly specific data on a customer. If it's just pulling in a first name, a particular trigger, and some information around some activity, it's not necessarily sensitive information that is of value to necessarily anybody. One of the things we looked at was, for example, dealing with financial institutions in different markets and the need for servers and any processing to be carried out within that jurisdiction. So it's something that we're conscious of and looking at. But from a cybersecurity perspective, we will have more to do, especially if we're going to continue targeting large B2C type corporate companies.
Thank you. And in terms of scalability, because with that comes also how robust is your architecture and the engine behind this that can scale for going from generating, let's say, 100 videos a day to 100,000 videos a day. Mm-hmm. Across multiple markets. So what type of design, and I know you probably need your CTOs here, but in terms of in broader aspect, what design principles have been used, what type of architecture model being used to address this scalability demand that you have on your roadmap?
So specifics around architecture, it's true that I don't have the knowledge, but around the fundamentals of the system, it's perfectly horizontally scalable, such that as it stands, our only variable cost is computing power. Depending on the requirements of the customer in question, we can power our own, for example, language models for script generation and voiceover generation, or we can leverage an existing provider through an API, but of course the cost per video increases. But in terms of our own architecture, it is fully scalable due to cloud computing power service providers ultimately, and a fairly, I understand, excellent setup for our infrastructure in general, right? That's probably not specific enough, I appreciate, but I'll I'll come back.
Can you pass an audit? Can you pass a technical and security audit? Because that's what the investment comes, that's what collaboration with large enterprises require to get plugged into their systems. And that's why the question comes from in terms of, do you hit those marks when it comes to if you need to go through an audit for new collaboration and new funds?
No, it's a great point, and again, something that we need to look into further. It's not something that we're knowledgeable enough on yet.
Okay. Happy to help. We can talk about it later because our location connection.
Totally.
I'm happy to continue conversation.
Azita, the good thing is that we startup people are pretty selfish, right? And hungry. So if you are willing to support, we are very much willing to take that support. So thanks a lot for offer of support. Yanis, please go ahead.
Tom, I've made this rookie mistake as well, and I'm going to share it. You know, when you start a company or I've launched many products, we always believe the world is our oyster and everybody can buy it. So you spoke about small companies, large companies, agencies buying your proposition. Bad mistake. I can tell you each one of them will suck the same energy, which somebody paying you 10,000 or 15,000 versus somebody paying you 500,000 or 300,000. You prioritize your efforts in the start, which is going back to Ellie's point, your ICPs, and not just ICP, who's your true ideal customer would be, because an enterprise would really deal sometimes and many a times would deal with white glove treatment versus a self-serve, like you said, a low-code, no-code platform. I can tell you no enterprise would ever subscribe. They say they subscribe to low-code, no-code, but they don't use it. It's not DIY, it's DIFM. Do it for me instead of do it yourself, right? So you would want to really hone in, since you're just starting up, which is the right customer you would want to go for, right? Because agencies, you don't know the intention, right? They may learn and they can replicate. They may also have the right technology teams, right? So who's your friend, who's your enemy, or who's your frenemy? You will have to decide. So it's your choice, which you will have to make. So make these careful choices, but they are important in the start. It's good to experiment, but after that experimentation, and now when you have raised capital, when you start getting questioned, what's the ROI, where is the profitability? You may want to go ahead and critically evaluate which are the segments you really want to go for. Large, small or medium business, or agencies. Especially.
No, I totally appreciate that, Anis. And I mean, our initial strategy is top down. It's starting with large, and therefore getting more personalization. It's like a greater service in terms of from our side, adopting our service requires greater customization or configuration. And the longer term objective was to democratize the service. But regardless, as you say, now that we've got a little bit of capital behind us, we need to figure out in terms of like the big thing on my mind at the moment is around sales cycles. And with those large corporations, how long should it take? How many stakeholders need to be on those calls and to kind of properly define that kind of sales cycle? I'd really appreciate your advice. I know you've been dealing with these sorts of things for years. So if it were possible to get any more information or guidance from you on the subject, I'd really appreciate it separately.
Offline, yeah, but you have to fix that, because I have seen many companies fail because they didn't fix this. And it may so happen that you may never come down. I would also say that this is the kind of money you may make top only, that you never come down.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you want to pick the bottom of the pile, which is a small and medium business, and don't go and focus on large enterprise, that's a different call. I'm not saying it's a bad call. It's a different call. Or if you want to work with agencies, that's a different call. But at least for the next 5 years to 10 years, you need to have one strategy, not three. You literally have three, and that will fail.
Yeah, you're not at that point that you can't scale to three. Great. And he also sounds like you need marketing help.
Well, probably, yeah. Well, definitely. I guess the interest we've had as a result of simple automated sequential emails, which I know everybody's tired of, but the positive response we've had from large enterprise has been somewhat overwhelming. So our go-to-market kind of marketing strategy to date has been limited, but very effective with the simple tools we've been leveraging. But you're absolutely right, Ali. And again, if that was something you're willing to shed some advice on separately, I'd be very grateful.
Let's hear it from Renu.
Well, the pitch was good, but like all the others have mentioned, a lot of points. I was curious, you didn't emphasize enough on the interactive and shoppable video that you are creating, and what is the marketing ROI impact that it is having? Why should somebody go after video at all? Why personalized video? What is it doing to their marketing efficiency? Probably that is one big area for you to look at, because that is what is going to sell it for the marketing departments.
I appreciate that. I mean, in terms of standardized metrics, we're talking like dynamic video will outperform its static image counterpart by 500%. These sorts of things. In the case of many of the big companies we're dealing with, their objectives are around converting more of their mid-funnel, and that's where they see our value add at present. It's somewhere between communications and marketing. They value the output that we're generating as if it were marketing content, but they really are leveraging it as if it were a communications kind of substitute or complement. But yeah, no, very, very good point. Thanks, Renu.
Sure. I think Devang has one more question. Devang, please.
Yeah, thanks. So Tom, I went through the presentation and then I do have a technical problem, so maybe I missed something, but I went through the whole deck and it's, resurrecting abandoned cart is good rhetoric for sure and things like that. But what I got out of it at the end is that for everyone that abandons the cart, you throw in a discount, and there's a video of how it looks now, then you throw in a discount, and then that's the centerpiece of the offering. So do correct me if I'm wrong. And then if I am right, then what I'm trying to say is that you're somehow inferring that price was the only reason for abandonment. It wasn't
okay.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Good. Sorry, no, to your point, thanks for pointing that out. No, that was not my intention. That's simply an example of a CTA, and we would never expect anybody to implement CTAs on all of their abandoned cart recovery strategies. So yeah, no, certainly not price being the main cause. I mean, in the case of Zara, with the 15 million abandoned carts that they have a day, we know that they have personal data for 47% of them. And that in many cases, it's because they received a call during their checkout period, and all they require is a simple reminder at the right time to re-engage with that purchase, not necessarily because they abandoned it with intention. But again, I stress that's only one example. And to Anissa's point earlier, I think it's also the most basic example of the output. And I think to date, we've found that explaining the Kuikads concept more so to laypersons, it serves as a good example that people go, gosh, they've never received a dynamic video relating to an abandoned cart. But of course, the videos that we can generate, the level of personalization and the scale at which we can do it is to date how we have justified our differentiation.
So are you able to infer, for example, the person abandoned the cart because they found something cheaper on the next tab on the screen, or they didn't find the right color or texture, or it's not available in their geography or something like that? And then can you customize the video based on that inference?
We haven't gone into that yet. As it stands, our proposition is leveraging the data that the company's already collecting. Okay. And of course, some collect more than others. And our real art, or at least what we think is our speciality, is the ability to call on the right assets, whether they be the typical, well, to date, all pre-approved by the client in question, whether they be generated with AI or whether they be calling upon assets that they have already produced in their digital asset management systems. But it's ultimately the composition of that final piece, but leveraging very specific content that's related to the person in question. If we use the car company, for example, we would want the exact car, make, year, and color that person purchased being referenced in that video. And that's what, to date, at least it would appear, the companies with whom we've been in touch with here in Spain is what they find quite differential. They haven't come across that level of personalization before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Devang. Any final comment, or probably Tom, you want any guidance from the panelist? Any questions that you wanted to ask that, hey, I really need insight on this particular question about my business?
I think there's a lot for me to go away and think about. I think, well, first of all, thank you very much to everybody. I really appreciate all of your insights. I think despite, not necessarily, you did give a fairly good roasting. So thank you to everybody.
No, I think it has been pretty fantastic, and panelists have been extremely generous with their feedback. And, I can tell you that when you have the offline conversations, you will get a lot of more insights to think more about your go-to-market strategies, your ICP, your scalability. So let's plan to have those one-on-one conversations and see how we can support each other, how we can work with each other, and make marketing even more beautiful and efficient. Yeah. So thanks everybody. Thanks all the panelists for joining us today. It has been fantastic conversation with you. And thanks a lot, Tom. I think you did not sweat, you did not cry during the roast session. So fantastic job.
I really appreciate all of your time, and Pankaj, thank you for the effort that EthAum was doing and that you've done to set these sorts of occasions up.
Thank you, sir.
Tom,
Thank you.
I'm also glad your brother wears glasses, because I wouldn't be able to tell you apart.
I'll let him know.
Thanks, Tom, for giving us an opportunity to have a conversation with you and listening to us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thank
Stay
you,
safe.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.